I'd like to start this video by asking you a question. Does physical exercise improve physical health? What do you think? Do you think that the answer is yes or no? Or maybe you are just thinking about how obvious the answer to this question is. Of course, the answer is a plain yes. Physical exercise definitely improves physical health. That's obvious, we all know that, because scientific evidence on this topic has been integrated into our cultural understanding. So we all know today that in order to be physically healthy, we need to practice some form of physical activity and exercise our body. But what about this other question? Now let's switch gears to a different kind of question. Does mental exercise improve psychological well-being or mental health? Maybe here the answer would not be as straightforward as the previous one. So do you think that the answer is yes or no in this second question? And what about now if I asked you what exactly you should do? What kind of mental exercise should you practice to improve your psychological well-being, your psychophysical well-being, in order to stay psychologically fit, so to speak? Maybe now the diversity of opinions would be huge. Everyone would have their own view on this. In today's video, I will be talking about a specific approach to mental training based on mindfulness and about its importance for our psychological well-being. This is a very useful video for athletes as well. We will see a very simple and practical mindfulness exercise to train our attention, to exercise the muscle of our attention, if you like this metaphor. A sort of foundational mindfulness exercise to train our brain's attention system. We live in a chaotic world, full of distractions, so it often happens that our attention is diverted from what really matters, thereby wasting in this way precious energy that we could use differently in order to improve the quality of our life. So the benefits of developing focused attention skills are plenty. It's a fundamental requirement for a healthy life. So let's get started. In the last 2 decades, references to mindfulness-based treatments have spectacularly proliferated, as well as the number of people engaged in some form of mind-body practice. So you might ask, well, why is there this massive interest in mindfulness meditation? What drives people to engage in these mind-body practices in general, and in mindfulness meditation practices in particular, to benefit psychological well-being? Let's make it more punchy. What is the number one explanation that motivates people to get involved into certain mind-body practices or mindfulness meditation or yoga and other disciplines of this kind? Well, the number one reason for this interest around these kinds of practices is stress. We all have to find a way to deal with stress, right? Stress is an issue facing many individuals nowadays. We all probably know somebody who is overwhelmed because of the pressure that they face as part of modern life. And here is where mindfulness can help us. What are we going to do in this video? In today's video, I will tell you a bit about the origin of mindfulness as it was developed and popularized by Jon Kabat-Zinn. Then I will tell you the main steps of a foundational mindfulness breathing exercise, which is very useful as a focused attention practice. Then I will tell you a bit about the core attitudes that are necessary to cultivate a more mindful way of thinking and being in our busy daily lives. And finally, I will leave you with an audio guide to practice a mindfulness breathing exercise. Are you ready? So let's jump into it. The concept of mindfulness is not new, and in fact, it has been promoted for centuries as part of Buddhism and other spiritual traditions. Although the application of mindfulness to psychological health in the Western medical and mental health context is a more recent phenomenon, largely beginning in the 1970s. In fact, it was in 1979 at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center when Jon Kabat-Zinn launched a revolutionary program which is now widely known as MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. MBSR is an 8-week program to help people to reduce stress. The goal of the program was to introduce mindfulness meditation practice as a way to help people with stress, as I already said, but also with anxiety, depression, and even physical pain. In fact, it's precisely from here that the first structured intervention based on mindfulness was born, the MBSR protocol, presented to the scientific community as an effective treatment for pain management. Since those pioneering studies, empirical research has made significant advances into mindfulness, to the point that there is now plenty of evidence-based data giving researchers and practitioners confidence in what mindfulness can do for us, confidence in its positive impact on psychological health, and confidence also in its role as an effective antidote against common forms of psychological distress. How does Jon Kabat-Zinn define mindfulness? Well, he defines mindfulness as the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. Later in his career, Jon Kabat-Zinn added an extra bit to his first definition, which is in the service of self-understanding and wisdom. We will come back to this definition in a moment. Now, I don't know if you are familiar or not with the term mindfulness. For this reason, I just want to define it more clearly using the definition given by the Foundation for a Mindful Society, which is this. Mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we are doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what is going on around us. This, as you can imagine, is easier said than done. In fact, they are just definitions, very useful, but only definitions. Putting mindfulness into practice is another story, but no worries, we will get to practical mindfulness in a few minutes. Now let's go back to Jon Kabat-Zinn's definition, because it has a number of key points that are very important for our practice. Key points which are definitely not chosen haphazardly by Kabat-Zinn. So let's take another look at the definition of mindfulness to point out these key points contained in it. Mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So, mindfulness is a special form of awareness. It's not something mystical. For this reason, the second part of the definition states that it should be on purpose, which means that a certain volition is needed on our part. It's not merely spacing out or daydreaming. This aspect will become clearer as we proceed with the video. Then the definition continues by specifying that it should be a type of awareness of the present moment. This means that we should not be caught up in memories of the past or fantasies or fears about the future. We need to observe whatever is happening right now. Lastly, it's added in what fashion we should be aware of the present moment, which is non-judgmentally. This means that we try to remain as open as possible to whatever is happening without putting an extra layer of judgment on top of it. This extra layer of judgment is often our own opinion about how things should be. And it's by putting this extra layer of judgment that we often miss how things really are, moment by moment by moment in our lives. Mindfulness is more than just meditation or sitting on a cushion. It's a lifestyle, a way of living. So, before starting the exercise, let's introduce in detail the 9 attitudinal foundations of mindfulness, which may serve you as a guideline that you can use not only to practice mindfulness, but also to cultivate a mindful approach in your daily life. Non-judgment. This attitude refers to the capacity to be an impartial witness of your thoughts, whether they are positive or negative. It refers also to the impartial witnessing of the feelings and sensations as they arise in your body. In other words, what we do during our mindfulness meditation practice is noticing and observing our thoughts, feelings and sensations with kindness, trying to simply observe the inclination to judge and criticize them. Jon Kabat-Zinn says something that everyone who has practiced mindfulness meditation knows very well. He says, at a certain point you may find your mind saying something like this: "It's boring, I can do that." We should try to keep a non-judgmental attitude during our practice and observe our inclination to judge and criticize our experience at all times. Why? Well, because we have the natural tendency to judge everything. We judge ourselves, the people we meet with, and those who we already know. We constantly judge every event that happens to us in our daily lives. And after a few repetitions, a judgment becomes a judgmental habit, and we can find ourselves always seeing things from the same angle without being able to get out of it. When we cultivate awareness and a non-judgmental attitude, we will be more willing to pay attention to our experience from moment to moment, avoiding, as far as possible, being caught up in our ideas and opinions, what we like and what we don't like. Cultivating awareness allows us to see things as they are, rather than through the lenses of our preferences. So we can react to thoughts, or alternatively, and this is what we will learn with our mindfulness practice, we can simply observe them without judging them. So you will learn how to take note in the present moment of thoughts and emotions, and you will also learn how not to react nor to get tangled in judgments. Patience. Patience means allowing things to unfold in their own time. The benefits produced by our mindfulness practice is not something that happens overnight or just after a session. So patience is a fundamental quality of mindfulness practice in this sense. Patience means also releasing the need to control the situation for a particular outcome. Over time, you will feel more focused and more connected to yourself and others. So I suggest you have patience and keep going with your practice. Patience, says Jon Kabat-Zinn, is a form of wisdom. It comes from understanding and accepting that everything has its natural time of maturation. So during mindfulness meditation, we can cultivate patience, knowing that yes, Our mind behaves like a monkey jumping from one thought to another. Yes, we struggle to stay focused on the breath. Yes, we make a lot of judgments as we meditate. Sitting still, especially the first few times, is tiring. All of that is normal. For all these reasons, we have to learn to be patient with ourselves to practice mindfulness meditation. Patience is that form of wisdom we reach when we accept the fact that things take time to mature, and this kind of wisdom is equally an extraordinary form of grace that we can grant to ourselves and to others in all circumstances. Beginner's mind. The attitude of the beginner's mind refers to the willingness to see everything as if for the first time, with a fresh curiosity, with a childlike sense of wonder, if you like this metaphor. So cultivating the capacity to be surprised and to see everything as if for the first time is the beginner's mind. We usually approach our lives and all the experiences we live every day through the lenses of our preferences, our prejudices, and don't savor our experiences to the full. But how much richer could our life be if we looked at and faced everything with a new and fresh look, and with the mind of a beginner. Beginner's mind means that as a beginner you have no expectations about the world, no preconceptions about yourself. Introducing this new way of observing reality, the beginner's mind, is a great challenge, since we usually have an opinion on everything that happens to us. But still, the beginner's mind helps us to approach each experience as new and fresh, because in fact it's always new and fresh. Trust. Every time you let go of the thought that flowed your mind to return to the breath, as we will see in our mindfulness meditation practice, you take a step towards your wisdom, which is always there, just waiting to be discovered. So trust is a fundamental quality to be cultivated, because when we inhabit and embrace our wisdom and trust it, perhaps it would be easier to recognize that stopping having the certainty of being right at all times is what we need right now, for example. Perhaps we will be more able to listen to and trust ourselves, knowing that even if we make a mistake, we will still remain whole and learn along the way. This means having trust in the validity of our own felt experience, having trust in our personal ability to observe, to be open and attentive, to reflect on our experience, to grow and learn from observation. Non-striving. Non-striving is another fundamental attitude to practice mindfulness meditation. We are constantly trying to fix things quickly, aren't we? We are not accustomed to allowing the present to be the way it is without trying to fix it or make something happen. Does it mean that we have to develop a sort of passive attitude towards life? Not at all. When we cultivate the attitudes of trust and non-striving, especially during our practice, we create more space in which to nurture the ability to respond rather than to react to our own experience, and that makes a huge difference in our lives. Jon Kabat-Zinn warns us all by saying that if you practice mindfulness meditation pursuing a particular result, you could get the opposite effect. The real point of mindfulness meditation is simple, although very challenging, and consists of focusing our attention on seeing and accepting things as they are, moment by moment, to respond to them, not to react to them. The results, the benefits of our mindfulness meditation practice will come by themselves with patience and regular practice. If we let ourselves go to what is already there in the present moment, all the efforts will disappear and a new flavor of the experience will emerge. In fact, in mindfulness, there is no right or wrong, but only practicing or not practicing. Cultivating non-striving does not mean that our life will become fossilized or static. On the contrary, our life will acquire a more spontaneous, fluid, natural and free movement. Acceptance. Again, it's not about being passive, it's recognizing things as they are. Jon Kabat-Zinn refers to this attitude of acceptance as a very active process. Acceptance means bringing openness to our lives, kindness towards other people, and welcoming experience as it is, moment by moment by moment. It's looking at our life and whatever happens to us right in the eye in order to respond, not to react or to resist things, because reacting or resisting things is very often what causes stress and anxiety. So acceptance does not mean resigning to the current condition of things, abandoning any desire to devote ourselves to projects, to pursue goals, and ultimately to change things for the better. It does not mean accepting passively what we don't like in other people, or giving up supporting our ideas, or giving up being assertive. It does not mean avoiding expressing criticism. Acceptance is an attitude of openness to our experience, moment by moment by moment, including to judgmental activity. Acceptance means making room for our thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations that we are experiencing right now. And if our mind is making judgments, we can always open ourselves to the experience of observing and recognizing these judgments, instead of automatically accepting them or reacting to them. Letting go. Letting go means simply allowing and letting things be as they are, without the need to try to control our thoughts, feelings or actions. It means releasing the feeling of being trapped by anxiety, knowing that the sensations in your chest, for example, are just sensations. They are not the whole of you, and they will pass if you let them go. Letting go means also detaching from someone or something to which we are attached to. It also means accepting that we cannot possess them, and this inevitably leads to a feeling of loss. Letting go means ultimately not being attached to thoughts or emotions, and above all, not being governed by them. We often try to hold on to a pleasurable experience because we do not believe that it will ever return, or we tend to dwell on the things that hurt us and repeatedly reactivate those emotions connected to them. This means that we never heal the wound and prolong the pain. Gratitude. At a certain point in his career, Jon Kabat-Zinn felt the need to add the attitude of gratitude to the previous 7 attitudes already mentioned. Gratitude allows you to bring attention to all the good in your life, keeping you from wallowing in all the things going wrong. Generosity. Another new addition is generosity. In a world where we are rushing off from one activity to the next one, giving others presents, time, and our full attention is a meaningful gift of generosity. Attention is the rarest and the purest form of generosity, said Simone Weil. Generosity means granting presence, time, attention, compassion to others, but also to ourselves. Okay, now it's time to start talking about the mindfulness breathing exercise we will do in a few moments, which is of much help as a focused attention practice, as I already said at the beginning of this video. So let's start talking about the main steps and instructions of the exercise before we will do it with the audio guide. These steps have been laid out by the neuroscientist Amishi Jha, who studies how to optimize focus and how to train attention and working memory through mindfulness. So let's see the bigger picture of the exercise before practicing it. What you will do is to dedicate a period of time, let's say 10 to 20 minutes, in which you're going to sit in a comfortable, upright and alert posture, focusing all of your attention on the sensations of breathing. You can sit down on a chair or on the floor using a gym mat if you prefer. If we think of our attention as a flashlight, you're going to direct where that light will be focused, which in this specific exercise will be on the sensations of breathing. As the second step, you will be selecting a very specific sensation tied to the breath, whatever is most prominent for that period of time. It could be the coolness of air moving in and out of your nostrils, or it could be your abdomen moving up and down. Whatever it is, you will be selecting it. That will be essentially the target for your attention for the period of this form of practice. Okay, now that you have the focus, you will try to maintain it there. And as any of you that have tried it certainly know, our attention will not stay stable on this breath-focused sensation. It will wander. This is normal. It's how our mind works. For this reason, in anticipation of that, the last part of the instruction will be when you notice your mind has wandered, gently return it to the sensation of breathing. As you can see, I'm saying when you notice your mind has wandered, not if you notice your mind has wandered, because your mind will wander. That's totally normal. So just to recap and have a whole idea of what you will be doing in a few seconds with this mindfulness breathing practice. Focus all of your attention on the sensations of breathing. Select a region of the body to focus on. Maintain your attention on breathing, and when you notice that your mind has wandered, gently return to the sensation of breathing. Don't forget the 9 fundamental attitudes: non-judgment, patience, beginner's mind, trust, non-striving, acceptance, letting go, gratitude, and generosity. There is growing and promising evidence that mindfulness-based treatments can benefit both individual and social health. It's really something worth trying, in my opinion. This short video has been only an attempt to introduce you to a foundational mindfulness exercise, and I hope it helps. But if you feel uncomfortable during the practice you will do in a few seconds with the audio guide, up to the point that you cannot keep going, I suggest you take a rest or contact a professional for an official mindfulness-based program if you desire to integrate mindfulness in your life. And please keep in mind that mindfulness is not a panacea for dealing with pressures in our lives. So mindfulness will not eradicate magically difficulties such as anxiety, depression, stress, or disappointment and frustration when failing to reach a personal goal. Mindfulness requires a significant commitment. However, incorporating mindfulness into your daily life can definitely help you cope better with such challenges and in doing so enable you to live a better life. Now I leave you with the audio guide of a mindfulness breathing exercise led by John Kabat-Zinn. You will find the link in the description box below. Until next time. Ciao!